1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome to Mission CTRL, Peralta Design's podcast on all things branding and digital marketing. Since 2008, Peralta Design has launched hundreds of brands with award-winning identities and websites. Join our hosts Ramon and Jorge as they use decades of combined experience to tackle topics with past clients, industry partners, and the rest of the PD crew. At Peralta Design, we launch brands. But for now, let's launch right into this episode of Mission CTRL.
Hey everybody, welcome to Mission CTRL, Peralta Design's official podcast for everything branding, marketing, and entrepreneurship, where we respect the grind and reclaim the American dream. I am your host, Ramon Peralta from Peralta Design, and we launch brands. Please join me today. I'm so excited. Of course, I've got my co-pilot with me, Jorge, but please join me in welcoming one of my favorite Tuck MBE program alumni, a real-life Silicon Valley startup founder, and all-around inspiring woman in business, Anita Gardyne. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm Anita Gardyne. It's okay. I'm married to my co-founder for 34 years, and when we were married in 1986, the minister pronounced us as Mr. and Mrs. Gardyne. So, I've heard it many times, but I am truly honored to be here with you and with Jorge yet again. Our last time was when we were working.
Pleasure is all ours.
Yes.
Well, come on. Last time we were together, you guys were helping me launch my brand at Oneva.com. And so who better in this moment where I'm scaling with my A team, backed by folks who bring dollars, the Chris Yeas, everybody this morning that our newest addition is Nino Campos, formerly supplier diversity head at Oracle. Now Team Oneva, to join the sales team that we're expanding. So I'm excited to, in this moment with our community. Certainly we met at Tuck. We share our minority certification, but we share so much more than that. And it's a vision of how do we make sure there are a lot more Ramones and Jorges and Anitas who are lifting up with us as we scale and grow our businesses, and then make sure we got that next generation well seated. Because as you will here, as we talk, Jorge, I'm an OG. I'm sitting in my childhood home in Richmond, California, and at 17, I started to work at AT&T in the engineering department. The summer before I went to college at Cal, and I started there at age 15. So that's my whole life story. I'm going to tell you all that fun stuff, but I just share this to say, I am just honored and blessed to be able to launch again. With the help of this amazing team. And I truly am honored and appreciative of your guidance, your friendship, your mentorship. And you're going to teach me how to give back. You're going to educate me, you and Frank, around philanthropy.
Yes.
When multi-billion-dollar exits, you have to plan that as well as a founder. So let's talk about how we plan the exit at the start. And that's how we wind up with creating a Black unicorn. And doing something that we Black and Browns know that with access to capital, with building that 18 network, we can all take that rocket ship to the moon. So,
Amen. Listen, you said quite a bit. You even mentioned our dear friend Frank Venegas out in Detroit from Ideal Steel, and he's an inspiration to all of us. You mentioned your career at AT&T. I do want to get to Oneva. I want you to tell our listeners what that's all about and what do you do there. But can you give us a little bit more of a glimpse into your career and how you went from working at AT&T and sounds like you were a child prodigy if you were in college at 15, but tell us how that turned into becoming a startup founder, because that's really what our listeners are passionate about, is what is that correct path, if there is such a thing?
Absolutely. The first answer is easy. There is no correct path. As a Black female, 58-year-old woman, let me be absolutely clear and say I knew out of the gate my path would be more challenging and more difficult than others. My life has certainly proven that, but I got to tell you, it's a heck of a lot better now than it was in 1980, walking into an engineering department at age 17, and long before what we call the Me Too movement. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, I can bring that depth. But for me, I'm also a product of affirmative action. There were amazing programs through UC Berkeley that targeted folks like me, who look like me, who they knew could excel in that environment with some lifting up. It's all about rocket ship. So I'm blessed that I was a part of a program that took folks like me onto campus. I was also a part of a program called MESA, Math, Engineering, Science Achievement, that paid me for my grades. Literally, what turned out to be the same requirements to get into UC Berkeley. I think they gave us $100 per A and 54 B in those courses. And I'm here to tell you, it worked.
Talk about an incentive.
Can you tell us a little bit, even before you got through those doors, obviously you have a passion for this, working with you, it becomes very evident, have a conversation with you in the first minute. But where did that come from childhood? Was this something that you always had a passion for, that you found through a mentor or through a specific program you had access to? What was the spark to even kind of lead you in this direction?
You mean wanting to own my own business and build my own billion-dollar company?
Technology,
exactly.
Walking into
all of it, just all of it, man. Okay. Here's the deal. Here's the real. I mean, one, I'll talk about my parents, who are awesome, amazing. I am a descendant of slaves. I am first generation, born in the North with access to school. My mother moved here with her family to the San Francisco Bay Area prior to World War II, during World War II, as did many families from the Southwest. Now, my father trailed after her and married her. So I simply say to you, like many, I'm first generation born in this country. And we know that struggle of what it's like to finally be able to have that access. So my parents certainly laid that down for us. But I was also blessed to be born at a time that I wish we could replicate in this moment. I was born in 1962. And as you can imagine, I was aware of 1968. I was aware of a movement, but I was certainly aware of Martin Luther King. I was aware of Malcolm X. I'm the youngest of 8 children, and I had 2 parents, right? And growing up. But we had music. We had Curtis Mayfield. We had Black and brown television on these small stations that no longer exist. So we had so many other tools and resources that exposed us to technology, makeup, pharmaceuticals. And I sit here in Silicon Valley, even though it's taken some time for folks way out in what we call Sand Hill Road to realize that some of us exist in Oakland and Richmond. And let's talk about those of us who exist in Kentucky, in Iowa. Exceptionalism exists everywhere. So I got to see that in my own home with my parents. I watched my mom before I went to elementary school, go to school to get her GED. A woman with 8 kids, there was no microwave, there was no eating out, there was no dryer, right? 8 kids. And she was going to school at night. That struck me. Mm-hmm. I watched my father do the same thing at a community college to hone his skill as a welder, even though he had less than a 6th grade education, because he is a product of what the South was producing, right? When he was born in the 1930s. So here I have these 2 amazing role models who valued education, who saw opportunities that were created in that moment, including affirmative action, which I am a huge fan and support of. We absolutely know how to create more Anita Gardynes and get them into those programs. $100 for an A, $50 for a B. And there's stuff that went along with that. I'm not saying it's a handout, but I'm absolutely saying you put the right incentives in place and people will follow. And it's not hard to figure out. So for me, that was my start. I just had that passion about technology. I love old television. I'm a huge fan of a show called Mannix. Secretary Peggy was Black. She would help him solve cases. He used technology. He was working for tech companies. Folks were stealing IP. Even Perry Mason was handling intellectual property cases. So I was watching reruns. When my parents moved into this home in 1965, it was the first time, and I was in this room. It was the first time I wasn't in a crib in a room with my parents. So she turned the TV towards me and let me watch Perry Mason at night while my siblings slept. So, I'm a function of all the awesomeness that was happening. I'm of a generation when you say Black people are on television. And Lord forbid if Tina Turner was on, that meant Daddy was running, right? There was one TV in the house.
It's funny. It's funny you brought me back there because I remember my parents watching, Rockford Files and Mannix and Perry Mason and Beretta with the cockatoo. And
there you go.
Yeah, I grew up on that stuff, but I identified with what you said about your parents because my parents worked in factories. My dad actually got bored working in factories, and I remember when I was like 10 or 11, he went back to school to learn how to fix cars. But my parents both essentially immigrated with elementary, school, level educations. And there was always a motivation, where the children, I was the oldest of 5, but you just always have there's this high expectation that you have to succeed. You're watching them sacrifice, so you have no choice but to not squander their sacrifices and do something with it. And I absolutely hear that in your story. And
but as the oldest of 5, you had to lead. Well,
absolutely.
Go out there and you had to set the example for the rest to follow. So, all props to you. Since I was the tail end, right? I was the tail of the dog, and it's easy to be wagged. But you had to go out and set the brand, right? This is what it means to be Peralta. Mm. And that's what the world knows and follows to this day. So how awesome is that?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. But I do appreciate you mentioning affirmative action because myself, I'm sure Jorge, we can all relate to benefiting off of some programs that were kind of set aside for minority students that could take those after school program classes or those summer camps that I did some creative summer camps. I did some after school programs at RISD, but it opens your horizons because you're living in areas of poverty or you're living with limited means. You don't have those, you're not seeing the full picture. And I think that's what allows us to kind of dream and make our dreams come true. But the responsibility that not all of us have or feel they have is to pay it forward to that next group. And I think that's part of our mission at PD, a big, big part of our mission. And a big driving factor beyond this podcast behind it is that we want to inspire others. We want to show people the way. We want to share our knowledge. And that's a big part of this. So, building a company, going from being an employee and building a company, at what point did you realize that, was it that you found yourself butting heads in corporate America, or what was it that was the light bulb moment for you where you said, I'm going to start my own thing?
I always knew I wanted to be a big fish in a big pond. I was apparent it was not going to happen in corporate America, even though I left Quantum, which is now a company called Seagate, as the most senior Black executive in the company, reporting to that president as its CFO, overseeing $3.5 billion in international revenue back in the year 2000. It was apparent that wasn't going to be my path to C-suite. It was apparent that Silicon Valley was not going to provide me the keys to the kingdom that I wanted access to. Moreover, again, born in 1962, one of the first things I learned in going to Cal at 15 is there are a whole lot of baby boomers ahead of me who are going to be retiring, and they're going to need care. And just like my mom and dad, who are going to live in this very home as long as they can take air into their lungs, it has became my mission to make sure that every family had access to that in a fair, trusting way where then everybody didn't have to go broke, right? To take care of our families and to do what's right. And the folks who bring them care should get paid fairly. I realized that as an early age that they really did design cities so that people who look like me and you didn't have access to housing, didn't have access to education, didn't have access to clean water. We can go down the list. Mm-hmm. Have access to banks, didn't have access to grocery stores. So those were intentional. Mm-hmm. Those were purposeful by design. So, and as a part of my schooling at UC Berkeley, I earned a degree in economics in the Black community. I built my own degree on what is it we need to do to make changes for Black and Browns in this community, in this world. And that's been my mission. I'm going to tell you at the same time, I keep referencing this room. When I was 15, my mom came to me and she said, you got 2 choices. You're either going to learn to clean your room or you're going to pay me to do it. So like every entrepreneur, I went to Dad and I said, hey, Dad, allowance. I think I was getting $10 a week. I need $25 a week. And he said, okay. So I gave Mom 15 and I was making money at Mesa and it worked out. So we have a technology platform where you can either clean it yourself or you can find somebody with an FBI background check who's going to come to your house and they're going to. So those are the two choices you have, right? To this very day. And let's face it, we know what we call these new startup unicorn businesses. We created them. Where do you think Black and brown people lived when they could not go into hotels but needed to travel because they were in a band, because they were a minister? It's called Airbnb.
Exactly. The Green Book, the original Airbnb, right?
Okay, right. So, what was my grandmother doing when she came here from the South? She was working in homes and bringing great care to families who needed that so that other people could go to work. And she was paid fairly. Why is it so hard to replicate that? We literally started out with no tech. We just went in the market saying, hey, this is what we do. And that's one.
Well, that's a great, I was going to ask you that. You're leading right into my next question, which was for us, we find, and Jorge can attest to this because he speaks to the MVP quite often as a developer, is that a lot of startup founders have this idea that just keeps unraveling and unraveling. And we like to say, if you start simple scales, so what for Oneva, I think you alluded to it, what was the minimum viable product? What did it initially launch like? And then when did you start adding services to it to kind of bring on your full suite?
And let me be very clear. We started out with the first year we funded in 2014. I start with that we founded in January 2014, so that entrepreneurs are hearing that I'm approaching year 7. Absolutely, I'm looking at my what's my exit going to look like in the next 3 years, and what's that dollar value look like. But it took my having a vision before I went to Wilson Sonsini in January 2014 to have my company founded. I already had my vision of what my exit was going to be, and I can tell you it remains intact. So having that clear vision from the start was just an awesome way to make that happen. So, for me, it was absolutely surrounding myself because I didn't have a lot of money with folks who could help me get to that initial launch. I called, a fellow coworker, somebody who's worked for me twice in my corporate career, and told him my idea, that I'd written a business plan, that I'd had some support. He showed up at my door a week later. And I said, what are you doing here and where are you going to live? He says, you're going to be as big as PayPal and I'm moving in with you. We got a business to build. Rod Stanley left his family in Dallas and came to stay with us for 18 months. And he lived in my house for the first 6. We went out with no tech and built a brand, built an image, and created an event that began in June where we had in a park in Oakland, in Montclair Park. And we had no tech. We had some folks with some animals. We had popcorn. We had snow cones. And we had no tech. We had a screen image. And it was a picture of our daughter when she was younger, taken on a vacation. But I had several dozen moms and kids show up that just happened to be in the park. So much for all that running around. And I had a woman argue with me for 2 hours on what my pricing needed to be and why she needed the service. And that confirmed that I had market demand. My price points were the right ones, what she could afford to pay.
So you met this woman right at the park, right at the launch party?
Showed up at the event. I'm at the event. And she wouldn't let me hang out with the crowd. We had the mayor of Oakland, Jean Quan, there. At the time, she was with us. At the next event we hosted in Oakland, we had Libby Schaaf, who's the current mayor of Oakland, attend. They were at the time in a contest. So we brought some folks together to say, this is what our vision is. This is what we want to do. But we've confirmed our prices. We confirmed market demand. If a customer is willing to give me 2 hours that I didn't ask for, can you imagine how many opportunities or how many folks reach out to you every day through email, through LinkedIn, through Twitter, who want your attention? And this woman gave me 2 hours and why she wanted to be my customer. So I share that to say that cost me a popcorn machine, some flyers, a snow cone machine, and it was $100 to have the folks at the aquarium, come and do a show. And I invited my kids' school. They thought it was a party, and some great folks like the mayor. So, with no money, you can test your idea. We actually launched as Safety Sitters. We rebranded as Oneva, as you are aware.
Okay, that's a key takeaway there. That's a key takeaway.
This is so valuable for so much of our audience to hear, because we hear that question all the time. Where do I start? How do I get off the ground? I don't have, these people aren't being backed by venture capitalists, but they still have an idea that they want to bring to market.
I'm not backed by a venture capitalist. I'm
exactly, and that is so great to hear all of that.
Right.
But think about how much real world focus testing you just got out of getting those events and getting creative and thinking outside the box. It's those kind of things that makes it unique, because you're able to get and gauge the demand and gauge what the pricing should be. All of that just from getting out there in the real world without a technology stack yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, this is our third startup. When I was in grad school in 1988, I graduated from the Berkeley Business School. The year later, they renamed it to Haas. Okay. But I did two theses, and one was to start a PC fax card company with my husband and co-founder here at Oneva, and we chose not to pursue that. In 1999, we had a company called What's Next. It was a precursor to what we call Career Builder. Mm-hmm. I learned that building a company for people who don't have jobs and would not pay me, even though they liked my work, was a bad idea. The third company I thought about as an important early step, making sure it was something I built a product that people would pay for. So that was the value of the 2 hours in the park. And if I could just go back to that experience in that program that just got me in UC Berkeley, I would go and meet my professor, Dr. Tom McCullough, who I met in 1978, who's invested in me twice, who's an advisor at my company. It's nice to have an economist when you're building out the global scaling technology platform. But I would go visit him in his office, and I would just see, in those days, there was no internet, there was no computer, right? Not really. And they'd have these postings on the walls of job descriptions. I didn't know what an MBA was. I knew what a doctor, I knew what a nurse, I knew a private eye, right? I knew policeman. I knew teacher. I had no concept of what it meant to get an MBA and what that meant to go in the workforce. So I'm back to your point of saying, sometimes we can just get kids on campuses and whether that's a corporate campus, as we think about ways we can give back, getting them exposure to us. That we've got patents, folks who look like us, who are there, who are doing it. Sometimes it's just letting folks know what's out there, what's an available option is part of that give back. So for me, it happened in a hallway, seeing jobs and saying, you mean you can make this much money? Holy crap, Batman. At 15, you got no real concept of money, back in those days. Nowadays, kids are sophisticated and my kids outsmart me all the time. I'm simply sharing with you. Part of that giving back is creating that exposure, finding opportunities to get people in at what you do. I know you do that. And again, two of the reasons I certainly can think of why I've reached out to you and asked to join you today is because you give back, because of your commitment to philanthropy. And in this moment where I'm in a position I've never been before, and that's looking at the exit of my company. And that's being able to look at exiting as CEO and board chair, which means I retain control of my company, just like Gates did, just like Zuckerberg did, just like Oprah did. And it's exciting to be able to say that I'm in that path, I'm in that trajectory. And it's all because, awesome folks like you who support me, who guided me, who showed me the path on how to do that. So I just want to say thank you for introducing philanthropy into my lexicon. Mm-hmm. And Frank, there's a reason you and I've stayed connected since 2017. Yep. I was building that technology with Microsoft in 2017. We were building our MVP. So again, you can hear I founded in 2014. In 2017, I'm building my MVP alongside Microsoft, thanks to an introduction from Reverend Jesse Jackson. So to have that company as my brother in this building didn't cost them a penny, didn't cost me a penny. And now as a Microsoft Fast Track startup company, I get my cloud for free. I simply say to you, it took me that period of time to have what I'd call my first iteration of a technology platform that was of a sufficient quality to introduce to my customer, Microsoft. So part of my process that happened between 14 and 17 is I absolutely went out with that initial consumer version of the platform. Okay, the customer says, I want it. Here's my price. Awesome. I'm going to put out a front end, right? I'm going to have something better than the picture of my kid. And you're going to be able to book and see some things about the company. If you click, you'll actually see, an image. First thing that happened is our attorneys at Wilson Sonsini said, you're not going out as safety sitters. We built Google, we built Apple, and you've got the potential and you're going to rebrand. Our attorney, Rachel Profit, joined us in the room and we all decided that we liked the name Oneva. And we created that brand as it means trust and it means safety. Now, I still have to make it a verb like Google to do everything Rachel said. But I simply say to you, there's work that happened. And, Wilson Sonsini took me on for zero money. They invested in me as an entrepreneur. They started out by giving me a $30,000 line of credit as a founder. They liked my idea. Cost me zip. I had no money. Kai Nishimura Drake is still at Wilson Sonsini. Find her in LinkedIn. Tell her Anita sent you. Not only did they find me, give me that credit, they let me balloon up to over 125 grand. They also have invested in me. They sit on my cap table. Now, it turns out they were really smart. They came in on the best possible round, But when you think about Silicon Valley law firms who created my intellectual property, my trademark, who sat me in a room and said, this is how you're going to rebrand before you scale in a consumer space. And it cost me nothing. I simply share that to say it's truly an act of God. You talk about paying it forward. So how could I not do that same when you did that for me? Wilson Sonsini did that for me. Rachel Profit, who's now at Cooley, she left Wilson, went to Cooley and did the same thing. I got another line of credit. Right?
Yeah.
I have awesome folks who believe in me. So for founders, you got great ideas. Look at law firms. Every law firm has a program. They're constantly doing meets. Pillsbury's doing them. Zoom is amazing. No matter where you are, start to sit in on those calls.
Were there any pitfalls for losing equity in exchange for investment that you can warn some of our young founders or early stage entrepreneurs about?
Absolutely. In this moment, I'll tell you, I'm smarting. I'm smarting because Kay and Rachel did such a great job at writing convertible notes. That's how we've raised money. That our investors asked to renegotiate because they realized that as a founder and as employees, we would just get a whole lot, right, on the other side. Mm-hmm. So we actually raised money primarily in the form of a convertible note. A convertible note is basically a loan. That means you give folks their money back, in our case, plus simple 6% interest after, a couple years' time. Or you raise a Series A, which is more than $3 million. And at that point, folks convert. So I have not raised $3 million in a single time, despite the patents, despite my MVP winning TechCrunch Battlefield Silver, despite winning, best startup Silicon Valley. And I pitched right after an incumbent in my market. I still haven't gotten any investment from Silicon Valley or from VCs. And, let's be clear, that's from a VC, regardless of what package they were born into. So yet we get so many great folks who pay it forward. I keep going back to you, Fred Till at Microsoft, Fernando Hernandez at Microsoft, that helped bring us to this moment. So, that's the only way I know how to go. And that's all. It costs me no money. And I don't, yes, I've been fortunate. I have raised over 3 million now. But my investors renegotiated and I agreed to convert them all to options. Mm-hmm. That happened because somebody, not me, I was presenting into a board meeting and somebody heard, a 9-digit number that got folks excited. And I'm truly blessed to say that my largest investor is my mom and my dad. You want to know who the chairman of the board of Oneva are? It's my parents, because they saw that vision. They saw that drive. Well, I spent years on a business plan before I went to Wilson Sonsini. And my dad saw the results, and he got to see me, spending 3 days at an event with Dell and his executives. He got to see so many things. Sadly, he died about 10 days before, we had that TechCrunch win. So he didn't get to see that, but he absolutely was there to say to me, this thing's taken off. You signed a contract with Microsoft in 2016. The first thing he said is, you're going to go see your brother, Chris Darden, down in LA, because something big's happening here, and you need to start with the best. So if I can digress, this is how Ramon stepped up to me. I'm at B school. I'm in the middle of the pilot.
How this whole thing went down for real.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the truth. Because one thing I'm going to tell you, I'm the youngest of 8. You're the oldest of 5. That means I keep everybody's family secrets. And I'm sharing yours right now, Brother Ramon. So we're in Hanover. We're having this amazing experience with awesome entrepreneurs of his caliber, right? And Frank, Dr. Fred, and me. And I'm just sort of awash in this. And I'm also in the middle of this pilot with Microsoft here in Silicon Valley. And you may hear some issues at home with my dad and my mom. So this young gentleman steps up to me and says, hey, I'm an alpha, just like Chris. And I want you to know I am your brother, and I'm here to help you in any way I can. And he has held steadfast to that. And so I will share with you in this moment absolutely why I made sure I had my brother Chris.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
My brother Chris.
Was that Jane Pauley in there or Barbara Walters?
That was Barbara Walters. My parents would not do any interviews except they allowed her to come to the house.
Wow.
So, but in all sincerity, forgive me for turning around in that manner, but in all sincerity, sir, that you stepped to me in such a personal way as my brother, as you did, it was absolutely heartwarming, right? I thank you for that. And I'm speaking to building that brand. He came to me at an emotional level. He made himself memorable. And I've done business with this man. Let me be clear. I've given him money, and I don't have money, and I'm as tight as Dick's hat band. Spending money. So I say to you, this is a team that I will put in again as we grow and build our brand. And anybody listening and asking himself and herself how they want to pursue that, I'd start with a call to him, just as I did. When it was time for me to look at that growth. So thank you for
I appreciate that.
I know I just offended every other group. Every Delta's out there is not going to be going. I didn't pledge, but I got to tell you, I'm a Darden. We put together. So he's Alpha. I'm an Alpha Ed, right? So I'm down for it. So thank you for being our brother.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that wonderful story. And it's a perfect segue to Jorge, because he led the team that worked with your team. You guys are in California. We're on West Coast, East Coast. We work together through various time zones under tight deadlines. So Jorge, let's keep it real here. What was that like? And I want to hear from your perspective and Anita's as well, because we delivered.
Yeah, you definitely.
And for us, a lot of it comes down to the moment you open up a conversation with somebody who is as driven, who is as professional, who has that vision, right? You had that vision from the get-go, and you know where you're going. And it requires that you open up this extra gear to be able to operate efficiently. You need to be able to deliver on time and be able to follow that roadmap that you built for yourself. So it was so refreshing to just speak with somebody who had the knowledge, who knew exactly what it is that they wanted, and allowed us to do our work that much more efficiently. So we were able to turn around, work on a tight deadline, and oftentimes, as it stands, whether or not you're looking to get to market within a particular timeline, or you're looking to present your MVP or a prototype within a certain timeline. It was great to be able to, have our team interface with yours, and, just ultimately refreshing to be able to do that. There's this extra level of collaboration that comes up that we can't, you just can't replicate if it's not authentic. There's
absolutely. Like that level. You guys were so ready, though. You guys are so ready, working across time zones, with Zoom and so many folks working for you guys were knocking this out the ballpark then. I'm working with folks from Europe. I'm on the phone with Jenny, and she's sitting in London in the mornings. You guys are working those same time zones, and it comes through the work always done in a quality format on time. But I got to tell you what really, again, keeps bringing us back is that customer service, and it's that focus on us and our brand. You worked with us. We didn't have all the answers. We didn't have the 100% of the vision laid out. And you all came in and were that glue that helped us coordinate and build that brand and bring our site together so that we could put the best message out there. And again, I remind us in saying our customer out of the gate is Microsoft and continues to be. We certainly are blessed that we've signed contracts with other companies, Dishcraft Robotics, Felice Insurance, San Mateo Credit Union. We've got others in play and others that we've signed I'm not mentioning. But I simply share this to say good enough when you target an enterprise and it's Microsoft, one of the largest cap companies in the world, you bring your A game. So again, if you got to be clear going in around what it is you want, what you're going to deliver, and you do that, you bring that, and you did that as it pertained to our project and working with our engineering team. We're a small group. The team that built Oneva is me, my co-founder, Bob Gardyne. We've been married 34 years, I mentioned. Will Carpenter and Ron Colombo. We've been together through thick and thin, and it's been real thin. Let me be very clear.
Any challenges with working with your husband, building a team with, building a company with your husband?
Oh, we can do a whole episode on this. I will be real honest in this moment. You heard me talk about my investors renegotiated. Yeah. They didn't want to just give us debt. They said, if you're hearing these kinds of numbers for a tech only sale, girl, we want you to get users on that platform. And, you're going to go out there and go big and deliver that exit that we talked about. So everybody's renegotiating with me, including my co-founder. I founded Oneva in January 2014 and hired him away. He was a vice president at a video technology company. So
your husband and wife, but you kind of set that aside, and then you're able to separate business from the marriage.
He used his own attorney to negotiate. He informed me that he's renegotiating.
Okay.
Had some successful results. So to answer your question, we make it work. He's absolutely the yin to my yang. This place that without him being husband and wife at the end of the day, that comes first.
Yeah. Well, I can attest that I saw you guys cutting up a rug in Detroit. So that is a visual I'll never forget. And I could just tell the love and you guys were in sync, and dancing, when two couples dance, you can really tell how good their relationship is going. Because if they're in sync, on beat, and they're having fun, and you guys look like you were having a blast.
Or if you're at a party and somebody plays, back that thing up, drop it like it's hot too. Okay, come on. I wasn't the only one out there. Okay, come on. And for me, we've been married 34 years. We still have a high school. We have two children. Our son was here when our daughter was in kindergarten at the same school. So we kids in Oakland school since 97, and she's the class of 22. So, when we get an opportunity to go out, because we do work together a lot, and it's stress, lots of pressure, always together. And now with COVID,
I will bring up we've done a series we've just wrapped up a series on Black entrepreneurs, but you're going to be part of that series as well. But Bob's white, so. When you guys have been breaking barriers for a very long time. There's things that if we're going to keep it real, there's going to be challenges in the fact that you're a Black woman entrepreneur, married to a white male. So it's it's a dichotomy there. What's that been like, walking into boardrooms or pitching or just being, honestly? Because now it's common, but you guys celebrating 34 years. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. Well, that you are the first person that has ever asked me that, sir. And it certainly has added a level of complexity. And I would start by saying Bob's Persian.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's interesting that a lot of folks do consider him white, but certainly there are times when he's been considered Persian. Mm-hmm. And his peril, right? And again, if you can imagine, there have been times where people who looked a certain way,
right,
necessarily treated very well. So he unfortunately he gets a little bit of it from both sides, but folks who see him as white. So in that regard, absolutely, he and I walk in the room and they assume, he's CEO. We have folks who come up and say, why are you going to let her in that role? You should be the one driving this. Although you heard me say I founded the company.
You're the founder, right?
To it, I hired him. I added him. He negotiated being at the board. He was brutal, but but we get that. And in 1984, when we were dating, absolutely, it was a different time.
It was.
To get the cake top for the wedding with a couple who looked like us caused a conflict within the family, and some folks still aren't happy. But isn't it nice to see today we have so many folks who just cross those lines where they just there, and we just don't see it. Bob and I share common values. He went to a neighboring high school. His high school is not as good, but we were right. Turns out we were at some of the same football games, and at the same football game. He was a cheerleader, so I was in the audience and playing his school. So we get it. We absolutely feel it. From people of color sometimes. And wow, why did you make that choice? But I don't think love sees packages, right? I never have. And if you know how you see how we live our life, you see it in the decisions we make, right? In terms of what we value. And, issues around, what package somebody's born into just really doesn't, kind of make the top of our list. Although I absolutely get, and I want to send another message to every entrepreneur of color and specifically to Black and Brown. Absolutely, I had a career in corporate America in certain types of companies that were ready for folks like me. When I went out on my own, I absolutely, positively never anticipated the level of isms, right? As a 58-year-old Black woman, choose your ism, right? A descendant of slaves. I never anticipated the amount, the depth of those isms that I would experience across a large segment, and this isn't a comment about, just white people or just men or just straight people or just, it's been challenging across the board, and in a way I simply hadn't anticipated. But I got to tell you, on the flip side, Fernando Hernandez, he's the supplier diversity lead out of Microsoft. He sat me down in 2015 and he said, this is going to be hard. We're at Microsoft. We're going to support you. We got your back. But Spike Lee didn't get help until after he got the Oscar nod for Do the Right. So be ready. And first, I'm like, right. I had no idea how right he was. Yeah.
Well, you've persevered. You've broken barriers. You've persevered. The fortitude that you've had. Another thing that I hear, and God bless your marriage, and it's a real great example of love, long-lasting love that we don't see too much of these days in our society. Of speaking of that, people also don't have the patience that it takes to build a company over time and to build the network and the relationships that you've built. Because when you drop these big names and partnerships, but that's a lot of networking. That's you forming relationships with people that they're willing to, that they trust you, that they want to do business with you, that they refer you to other people. What can you tell our audience about building relationships and having the power of having such a vetted network around you as you are building your business?
People do business with who they know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. Me to be successful in my corporate career, imagine when I joined AT&T, Pacific Bell, in their accelerated management program in 1988 as the only person of color and the only woman. I mean, it was, again, a very different time. I absolutely adapted what I'll call white male behaviors and an ability to climb a corporate ladder. That's what you had to do to get promoted to director in 4 years, which is what I did. So, that's something that I've been able to master, is to utilize that skill set for my own good, so to speak. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as an accelerator. I hear these names and, oh, I went there and they can help me build a unicorn. All I know is taking the shoulder, putting it down, pushing the rock uphill a little bit every day. Some days I might roll back a little bit, but I'm pushing that rock every single day. And as long as the feet are moving, I'm doing something right. So it's about being tenacious, stick doing it, stick to itiveness. I'm selling into a $2 trillion domestic market. $2 trillion domestic.
Wow.
When I talk about in-home care. And it's a market that's underserved. And it's a massively growing market that's global. Yet here I sit in Silicon Valley without a single dollar from a VC, right? With Microsoft as my customer since 2016. So again, I say to you, entrepreneurs, anything is possible. Didn't have a whole lot of money. Absolutely was able to raise, over $3 million. But there were other days when I had to call my existing investors and say, I can't keep the lights on. I was taking $100 checks as loans, right? My parents gave me the gas card, right? Siblings paid my bills for years. This is truly a family effort, right? And blessed that our family is in this unique position to create this. And I also shared that it's my mom and dad who are the chairman of the boards of Oneva, and ultimately were able to put that capital into play. And that came after I had an executive from a competitor, a VP, not only reach out to me, have me show up to tell me that they were going to make sure I never got a penny in funding. And they absolutely sure that didn't happen. Since then, Care.com has been taken private. They IPO'd for $1 billion the same month we founded, and they sold for half the price. So that's the power of bringing a great idea into the market. And it took me, a 58-year-old Black woman, to do that because this solution did not exist. Yet you and I would call it a BFO, a blinding flash of the obvious. People need help with care.
Right.
We need help with care so that women lead a majority of families, are the economic engine of those families. And we need to be able to provide care for those families. And we know that when women get money, we build families, we build communities. And whether it's providing care to that Microsoft employee who needs help because she's working at home, or the San Mateo Credit Union employee who's in the office so the bank can be open, so her customers can be served while her kids at home doing school and Zoom. We want to be there to help that family. Same goes with elders who can't go to day centers anymore. And God bless those of you who still have elders in rest homes, right? My mission is to make sure that my mother, just like my father, lives in this house as long as she lives.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Let's talk a little bit about, as we wrap up the segment, which is just a powerful testimony that you give of passion and just fortitude.
I just want to interject really quick about how important it is for you to have told the story with all the different, it's not a straight line. Success,
right.
There's so many, and I see it in so many of these up and coming kids that are coming out of school that want to be an overnight success at like 22. And then if they're not CEOs at 25, they feel like a failure. And it's just like the road isn't a straight path. And a lot of it's, like you said, the tenacity, the stick-to-itiveness, the ability to grind, that ability to stay with it and see that out is the difference between the individual who can't do it. So it's such a valuable lesson. I'm so glad that you were able to share that path. And I think a lot of what gives individuals the strength to do that is, like you said, having a partner who's the yin and the yang. I know that, without, there's so many things that have, for me, fallen into place after getting this opportunity to work with Ramon, but a lot of that wouldn't have been possible without my wife. She's the one who's taught me to be a better person and pushed us to say, hey, we can do this. That is possible. Did it take a longer process? Was it a grind to get it all done? Definitely. And now it feels like, hey, we're just we're just scratching the surface. Now, this is the tip of the iceberg, and so much of that can be applied to business.
That's it.
So great to hear.
Awesome. Anita, give us because I know you've pitched Oneva on the big stage. You've spoken at a number of places. Tell our listeners, give us your best pitch for Oneva, and then tell us how we can find you and where will you be speaking next that somebody may be able to catch it.
Oh, you are too kind. In this moment, I am CEO of Oneva. You can certainly find me at Oneva, ONEVA.com. What we have built is a technology platform that connects employees at companies like Microsoft to FBI background check caregivers who come into their home and take care of their moms, take care of their kids. They'll cook for them. We clean. We can also do in-home massage. So we're excited that what we bring is a technology. You literally, you use your smartphone, you'll download the Oneva Me app, and it's an easy process. The HR department, easy for you to do. We are only available to companies who offer us as an employee benefit. And we're truly excited to be able to work with Felice Insurance, and their sales force has unique distribution of Oneva Concierge Care here in 13 counties in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we're excited in collaboration with that sales force that we continue to bring on additional companies. And we're actually tripling this month the number of employees that we're bringing service to on the platform. So what excites us and that passion, please find us if you want to bring that care to your employees, inside your families. Please find us if you have caregivers who are ready to ride that rocket ship and bring their best care, because we set rate floors at Oneva Concierge Care. Our caregivers choose their customers. Think of us as the opposite of Lyft or Uber. They send you whatever driver they want you to have, and they set the price. At Oneva, you choose the services you want. We'll give you a range of caregivers you can choose from. You'll see all their verified credentials, including that living FBI background check, a short video of them, and then you can choose up to 4 of them and say, hey, I want these 4. So what we think is awesome is those 4 folks are going to know, hey, there's somebody who needs care for an elder with a lift near 3rd and A Street on Thursday at 2. They don't need to know it's your mom, it's your sister. They don't get your personal information until you decide, okay, I choose you. And then for that limited time that they need access to your personal data, they have it. And then when the job's done, it's gone. So we work in a completely different way. And again, we do that because we know caregivers who generally look like us, right? Or are female and are immigrants are paid on average about $11.82 an hour in this country. We cannot live on that. Simply can't live on that. We have a churn rate in care because folks don't make enough money to get back to the job. So we've designed our technology platform to optimize for every user, including the caregiver. We're only going to match you to customers that you choose who are within your geographic span, who need your specific skills and services. So we really have created something different that allows choice for the consumer. If you want a female driver, choose a female driver, right? At the same time, we're not Lyft or Uber. But if you want somebody to drive your mom to the doctor's appointment and stay with her, or pick your child up from school the 2 days a week, they have the privilege of returning. Now that we're returning to COVID, we're the service to do that for you. Our technology can do that for you. So unlike those other places, we also have an 800 number. So you can always find me at 1-800-971-3053. Don't know about you, but if I have an immediate need for care, I'm not depending on my app to say, hey, I need something. And if it's care in particular, and I can assure you my 86-year-old mom who's roaming around me, she's not using this to book her care. She's calling the 800 number. She's set up for a weekly call. So we took the time to build Oneva's technology for how it needs to exist and how people use it. And that starts with my mom having an 800 number, knowing she's going to have it answered all the time. So how's that for a slick, fancy technology company that can do something that, Lyft, Uber, and Instacart didn't think about, which is also require 100% tipping is going to the caregiver. It's built into our technology out of the gate. It's easy. It's clear. We tell folks from the start, when they deliver a great professional, exceptional service, we expect them to be tipped, just like I would tip the person who gave me this wonderful mane. You would tip your barber for delivering that professional service. And that's how we lift the group to create living rates. We're seeing caregivers earning in the $24 to $30 an hour range in the households of families who can afford to pay them what they are worth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So thank you for allowing me to share that. That's how we get more women in the senior roles, into those CEO roles. We can travel, we can stay late, we can go out to, do drink with the guys, because we got a trusted caregiver who we know we can catch on the fly.
We love it. We love it that, it aligns with our mission, and you're taking care of people. You're making the world a better place. You're using your powers for good, and you're filling a void. You're filling a need. You left out something very important: the women in tech. Tell us briefly about that, because if there's a way for people to tune in, I'd love them to hear about it.
You are kind. On October 7th, I will be hosting Women in Tech. It'll be posted at oneva.com. So absolutely find me there. And if I could also share in closing, Microsoft recently made available $70 million for Black founders, $50 million in loans and debt, $20 million in equity. And that fund is going to be administered by a gentleman named Arian Williams. I hope everybody reaches out to him. I'm going to look at my phone in this moment and capture his firm name to make sure that we get it right. But I hope every founder out there who is looking for money, who has a business and wanting to grow, can do that. Well, obviously, I'm not very great at being on the quick with having my phone ready. But I will make sure I post his name as well. But I do hope folks find him. Arian Williams, Senior Vice President at Siebert Williams Shank. SIEBERT Williams Shake. Arian, ARION Williams. So please reach out to him.
Thank you.
Fernando Hernandez also has $500 million in new certified minority spend. Reach out to him. Founders certification, you would agree, Ramon, is a great way to build a business.
Absolutely.
And gain access to free. And it got me access to this set of geniuses that I share with you. So again, God bless you for being there when we needed somebody to listen to Microsoft. This is the team that we reached out to. And this is the team that delivered with the tech across time zones, with a scattered, team. God bless you for that. We've grown some in the engineering side, and we know we're going to be working with you again.
Thank you. We look forward to that. Well,
Jorge?
Anita, yes, Jorge, and we look forward to that. We absolutely look forward to working with you again, Anita. It was a pleasure, and I'm so excited for you and all the growth that you've experienced and all the gems that you dropped for our readers, viewers, and listeners, and readers, since we will be transcribing it as well. So, hey, thank you, Anita. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on Mission Control. Jorge, it's always great to have you as a co-pilot. And
it was great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad that we got down into the real, nitty gritty of being an entrepreneur. And thank you for keeping it real with us and our listeners. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.
Thank you for taking this journey with us. To learn more about Peralta Design and our work, go to www.peraltadesign.com and subscribe to keep up with the crew.